breath, my bellows, my heart, your hearth. Today, we carry the residue of smoke in our lungs. Today, we carry a new ember. Welcome to Embers, a Whisper and Flame podcast. My name is Michael, and I am the voice of Whisper and Flame. I am the voice that will guide you and journey with you these next 30 days. When your flame has burned down to embers, and all you can do is but whisper, you are welcome here. If you haven't yet, pick up a copy of Embers, 30 Days for Holding What Remains. Visit our website, whisperandflame.store, or our Etsy shop or Amazon. I'm a former pastor at an inner-city homeless shelter. I was a hospice chaplain, and I planted a church that welcomed deconstructing Christians. The poem we always begin with, the poem the journal begins with, your breath, my bellows, my heart, your hearth, is meaningful because when we experience loss, it feels like a residue in our lungs that just won't leave. The remainder of smoke or dust that won't let us get the deep breath we need to live and thrive. One of the gifts of the Christian story is that the story starts with God speaking, and when he speaks, breath is exhaled. Literally, the word ruach means wind or breath or spirit. That's the word that gets used in the earliest part of the Bible. And it's this same spirit hovering over the dark, raging waters, an earth formless and void, while he is poised, ready to bring light into the uncomprehending darkness, and life into the uncomprehending nothingness. It's God's breath, his spirit, his word that brings life. Let there be light. And so our poem is spoken from the perspective of someone whose very life essence, whose spirit, whose ruach is entwined with God's own spirit, and whose life and body are the hearth where the fire of his presence begins to dwell. A piece of the dawn that rises every morning to greet us, now dwelling in our hearts. But our losses, our failings, our illnesses, our diagnoses, our addictions, our rock-bottom moments remain with us and clog up our ability to breathe. The fresh air, the fresh spirit that we were meant to have is replaced with the long residue of hurts. Is there a pain that you endured that rests like smoke in your lungs? When my ex-wife and I lost our first baby and we ended up on the tall banks of an ever-widening canyon between us, like the walls of the Grand Canyon, one on one side, one on the other, yelling across the open air, unable to hear each other. When this happened, what followed felt like nothing short of mutual abandonment. We lost one another to our grief, and in it we found ourselves on those far banks, alone, unable to cross to the other side. No way to cross, no matter how much we wanted to. We couldn't, or we would die. I'm trying to communicate how it felt, not what it actually was. That sense of doom pervaded everything in our lives, and we lived afraid and cowering for years. After the loss, my ex became extremely anxious and depressive. I became distant and standoffish. I felt abandoned by her. She felt unseen and misunderstood. For years and years, this was more or less our daily existence. I became depended upon for what I wasn't equipped to provide. She relied on me like she would have relied on a safety blanket. She looked to me to provide her stability, but in her anxiety and need, there was also growing resentment. Resentment for me that she had to need me at all. Resentment for herself for not being strong enough to come back from her fear, from her depression, from the loss of a dream. And my resentment was growing too, at being treated this way when all I wanted was a calm life and happiness. You can't love a thing you resent having. After a while, I seemed to hold no real sentimental value to her, but I was still needed. So while she didn't love her safety blanket, she certainly used it. And she thought she was still loving me, still meeting my needs. And I tried to meet hers. We played these roles for years, missing each other by inches, by degrees, missing each other by miles and gaping canyon walls. At the time, we couldn't see any of it. We thought we were still loving each other. We kept trying. We got pregnant again. It was late 2012. Very quickly, we started seeing the same signs. Trickles of blood, anxiety spikes, and the same things that happened the first time. I got a phone call at work one day. We were due to fly out to my aunt's funeral in Florida that week. It was my wife on the phone, crying uncontrollably because she was bleeding heavily again. I left work. I rushed to her, took her to an urgent care, and they got us in for an emergency sonogram to see what was happening. We held our breaths because we had been here before. And on the monitor at first, as they searched, there was nothing. Just like last time, an empty blackness. I can picture it clearly, the residue of that moment, that tomb-like blackness where a womb should be, has never ever left me. And I can see the room. I can see the technician. I can see my ex laying there. I can feel her squeezing my hand so tightly as we waited for something to appear in the blackness on the screen. And then we looked, and we see this little flickering light in the middle of all the black, a little circle that was pulsing with living light, 160 beats per minute, hummingbird heart. That was our stubborn daughter, still there. The light flickering was her heartbeat, still going, keeping her with us. And I'll never forget that either. The relief and the fear of knowing that today we have her, but tomorrow could be a different story. Yeah, welcome to being a parent. The hard times endured, the fears we had, they continued. But hope was there too. Out of that blackness on the screen, we got a wonderful girl. Someone I'm so happy to know. The residue of hurt and hope are commingled in my life. What about yours? I want you to name to yourself the smoke in your lungs, to call it what it is. It's okay that it's there. It's okay to sit with it, because when we do that, we take power away from our pain. And when we're brave enough to look at it, God meets us there. I hope it's true that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I hope it's true that those who mourn will be comforted and the poor in spirit will have the kingdom of heaven. Join me in our breath prayer today. Inhale. I am not the smoke. Exhale. I am God's breath in clay. And again. I am not the smoke. And exhale. I am God's breath in clay. Thank you for joining me today for Ember 5, Smoke in My Lungs. Pick up a copy of Ember's 30 Days for Holding What Remains. It's our guided devotional journal that gives you space to write your own story. Allow me to bless you as we depart for now. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and bring you peace. Join me tomorrow for day 6 of Embers. Ruins are real. Before you go, remember, even the grave is not godless, but a child's lost and found. You, yes, you are beloved. Every scar, holy ground.